Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video, we will delve into a pivotal point that left fans on the edge of their seats, a section of story that revived one of the most beloved characters in the series, the resurrection of Satoru Gojo and the preparation for the final arc of Jujutsu Kaisen. In this dope video, we will retrace the exhilarating events of how they managed to get our man back, along with the final moments, or what I at least consider to be the final moments of the Culling Game, how it ends, the reason for its ending, and the start of the most climactic showdown this series has ever experienced. This is like literally the moment we have all been waiting for, so if you are new around here and want to watch content just like this but for a multitude of different series, then hit that subscribe button, and if you want Megumi and Nobara to ever return, the only way it's physically possible is if you like this video. It's a weird glitch I managed to find, so push this video to 5k likes stat. Just before we do move forwards though, the kings themselves, big Raid Shadow Legends, hit me up to let you all know that they've just recently dropped a brand new limited series called Raid Call of the Arbiter. It's free to watch and actually looks super dope, like I truly wasn't expecting it. New episodes of this limited series are out at 10 AM Eastern Standard Time every single Thursday until the 20th of July. As I said when I first checked out the show, I truly wasn't expecting the level of detail that had gone into each scene, like say on episode 7 where we watch Nut on his quest to prove himself. Like with my videos, sound effect placement is massive as it brings in the atmosphere for moments, and this episode just excelled in every field. It was pristine and drew me in with how dynamic it was. So if you already have a favourite character, check out this new limited series as it expands the already extensive lore, exploring the backstory for many of the champions you see in Raid. Also, if you do already jam Raid as well, you get the chance to get Artak, one of the 5 new characters from the show which have been added as a playable legendary champion for free. All you gotta do is just log into Raid for 7 days between now and the 24th of July. But if you haven't started Raid yet, jump in by using my link down in the description below or scan my QR code on the screen to get some insane bonuses. Like, you get the one and only epic champion Drake from the Lizardman faction and other useful things worth $30. So, once again, go and check out my link down in the description below or scan the QR code, and thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. But either way, sit back and relax as we delve into Jujutsu Kaisen. So, kicking things back off after the Sukuna revival part of the story, and standing there in the middle of the football field after a mind-boggling 1000 years, Yorozu is finally reunited with her love. As we learnt at the end of the Sukuna revival part of the Culling Game, this long-awaited confrontation takes place in the heart of the Sendai colony. More specifically, and assuming I'm correct with the old Googles here, this is most likely the Urtek football stadium, located in Sendai's Nanakita Park. As the two reincarnated souls stand facing each other, it's clear that both Yorozu and Sukuna have the same thoughts on their minds. They are literally a killer couple. Sukuna, the king of curses, exudes confidence, firmly believing that Yorozu stands no chance against him. With no time to spare, Yorozu springs into action, launching a blistering attack on Sukuna. But he effortlessly evades the strike, swiftly retaliating with a devastating kick. Hold on, there's a surprise twist in store. Yorozu, never one to miss a chance to lighten the mood, playfully teases Sukuna, pulling a funny face to catch him off guard. Sukuna's primary goal here is to obtain Yorozu's vessel, as he plans to eliminate Megumi's sister, Sukumi, and ultimately consume Megumi's soul. By accomplishing these nefarious deeds, Sukuna aims to solidify his claim as the most formidable and most powerful entity in existence. Yorozu expresses her curiosity about what Sukuna could offer her if she actually emerges victorious. In a stunning twist, Sukuna confidently assures Yorozu that if she does emerge victorious, he will grant her any wish that her heart desires. The stakes have never been set higher. Yorozu then, with a mischievous glint in her eye, playfully suggests the idea of marrying Sukuna. Surprisingly, Sukuna seems utterly unfazed by this unexpected proposal, as if it's happened a multitude of times before or something. With excitement bubbling in her voice, Yorozu exclaims that they've now made a promise. Yorozu's enthusiasm knows absolutely no bounds as she excitedly envisions their future together, plotting the destruction of 3 specific villages. Yorozu then reveals her twisted plan for their wedding reception, which includes adorning the trees with the most handsome men from the village. It's fairly evident that Yorozu harbors sinister intentions, and her excitement peaks as she mentions her favourite meal, which is monkey brains out of all things. Honestly, this scene here has to be some kind of reference to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The whole monkey brain thing just instantly made me think of that. Gegeki Katami just has so many different references to great forms of different art, like the bath scene with Hiromi Higuruma or Our Man Hikari, and his entire underground fighting ring being a direct reference to Fight Club. Either way, as Yorozu continues delving into the wedding details, she is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of the Divine Dogs. Surprisingly, Yorozu single-handedly takes down the onslaught of the Divine Dogs and realizes that Sukuna isn't even using his own technique on her. Sukuna advises Yorozu to utilize her very own techniques as well, but she declines. Sukuna, standing there, contemplates various possibilities within his mind. He understands that in order to sink Megami's soul deeper into despair, he must first destroy his vessel's sister. It turns out that aside from curse tools, Yorozu's construction can replicate any substance she is familiar with through diligent practice. This seasoned sorcerer has mastered the art of manipulating liquid metal, allowing her to change its shape and volume automatically through cursed energy control. The armor that Yorozu wears is inspired by a fusion of various evolutionary strands, making it an incredibly formidable weapon. Skipping away though for a moment and transporting ourselves back to the Heian era, we find Yorozu lost in deep contemplation. So in a similar aspect to Ryu, when it comes to pure curse energy output, Yorozu was quite powerful and one of the strongest sorcerers of her time. However, her curse energy consumption rate posed quite a challenge. But then, out of nowhere, a rumor then reached Yorozu's ears about a legendary butterfly capable of crossing vast seas. And guess what? Yorozu saw a glimmer of hope in the efficiency and energy of those tiny insects. But her newfound revelation didn't end there. Turns out that these insects possess superhuman strength, capable of lifting objects hundreds of times their own weight, a strength befitting a formidable sorcerer like Yorozu. Through this, Yorozu soon realized that her insect armor was the pinnacle of construction techniques, allowing her to recreate various substances, except for those special grade curse tools. I kind of think of her ability as just like the most jacked out version of Mai Zenon's construction ability that she could possibly have, or the ability that she might have gotten if, say, she wasn't actually a twin. But you know, that's, I guess, another entire video that someone could talk about someday. Ain't gonna be me. Continuing onwards, this unique combat style of Yorozu's turned the tables on the notorious Gokusho, the 5 Void Generals, earning her a place of respect in the Fujiwara clan. Back in the present, Yorozu unleashes her hardened armor, bursting up through the air before landing a powerful blow that connects directly with the King of Curse's face. Yorozu, determined to unravel Sukuna's plans, boldly questions him about his intentions regarding his shrine technique. However, the tide suddenly turns as Sukuna unveils his devastating Tranquil Dare technique, a formidable counter to any summoning. In a shocking twist of fate, Yorozu loses control over her liquid metal, making her realize that the Tranquil Dare has neutralized and nullified her curse energy within the metal. It's a game changer that leaves her reeling and something we never even saw Megami think about using. To make matters worse, fate can be cruel, and in a single brutal moment, Sukuna strikes Yorozu with his devastating piercing bull attack, inflicting a deep, agonizing wound to her abdomen. It's revealed that Sukuna intentionally used the 10 shadows to keep the Shikigami partially unstable, allowing for a larger effective range without them falling apart. Both the Tranquil Dare and the Piercing Bull were summoned using the original 10 Shadows technique, but their independent movement was restricted, resulting in reduced overall movement. However, since Sukuna's immense curse energy was reserved, their form remained stable. Despite enduring a life-threatening wound themselves, Yorozu holds on like a champ and warns Sukuna to not underestimate her. She tackles the Piercing Bull, grabbing its horns and landing a powerful blow to its head. Yorozu notices that Sukuna's Shikigami only moves in straight lines, and in exchange, its power dramatically increases. Out of nowhere though, a swarm of bunnies appear, blinding her vision and making it almost impossible for Yorozu to track down Sukuna. Sukuna, you know, like being the trickster that he is, hurls Max Elephant downwards while he floats in midair. In a surprising twist again, Yorozu transforms back into her original form, again looking like Sukumi, except like the Sukumi here just looks way more jacked up and cooler than she did in the past, where she also becomes determined to teach Sukuna love. Suddenly, a moment of realization hits Yorozu though, where she wonders if Sukuna already knows about love, which begins to actually make her mad. Man, Yorozu is actually one of the most random characters. She's cool, but like, oh my lord, she's like Sheba from Hell's Paradise if you know her, like in some aspects with that super out there personality. Anyway, skipping away from the current day and heading back to the golden age of Jujutsu, we see that a mesmerizing harvest ritual is taking place. Some individuals in the crowd can't help but question why they're offering prayers to a fearsome monster like Sukuna. Little do they know these folks belong to the Celestial Squad, the 5 Void Generals who seem to have conveniently forgotten Sukuna's previous atrocities against the esteemed Fujiwara clan. Amidst the hustle and bustle, a helper approaches Yorozu, addressing her as master and informing her about the upcoming harvest festival. Damn, Yorozu was a total baddie, man. She responds to the helper, demanding that they lower their voice. And if that wasn't enough, she gets even more annoyed when the helper has the audacity to suggest that she puts on some clothes in preparation for the festival. Like, how dare she? Yorozu, however, manages to find some form of excitement in the festival as it promises to offer delectable Chinese pastries to the gods. Out of the blue, Yorozu then spots a man calmly sitting down, also half naked. She approaches him with confidence and straight up hugs him, assuring him that he's not alone in this world. However, another meddlesome helper intervenes, urging Yorozu to step back. Undeterred, Yorozu boldly declares that she'll take the place of that man's helper and refuses to let him feel lonely. Yes, my friend, it was love at first sight, a once-in-a-lifetime encounter that made Yorozu's heart skip a beat. Yet, this wasn't the usual beat skip when it came to love. No, this time, as she proclaimed her right to be with Sukuna, a slash appeared on her body and she fell to the ground, finally proving that love does indeed kill. Honestly, what a turbulent backstory, and I wouldn't expect any less from such an out there character. Like, what are your thoughts on her right now? The ambitions are kind of random to me, like a little bit like Shija, I guess. Fast forward back to the present now, where the air is thicker with skeptical tension as Yorozu and Sukuna continue to engage in their fierce battle. Yorozu, more determined than ever to end Sukuna's existence, conjures up a sphere filled with darkness. Sukuna can't help but to notice the peculiar perfection of that sphere. Okay, so this chick is absolutely crazy, but you go and give her one of the most cracked abilities in the entire story so far. I don't even know what the sphere is considered in regards to like her technique. Like, is it a maximum technique or is it just an extension of her creation tech? I don't know, but like for a moment and just nerding out on this, thank you to Reddit Jujutsu for like being the big brainery, because I would have never figured this out. But a perfect circle is a shape that has an infinite amount of points, all at an equal distance from its center. This means that no matter what angle of attack you come from, your first point of contact will always be a single, infinitesimally small point. Pressure is like defined as a force acting on a cross-section. If you keep the pressure the same, but reduce the cross-section size, this means that any amount of force acting upon an infinitely small area will have infinite pressure. Yorozu's perfect sphere will technically destroy anything it touches because it will be an infinitesimally small point of first contact regardless of what angle you hit it from. Anyway, sending the ball forth, Yorozu reveals that a true sphere is thought to be impossible due to its lack of contact area, which generates infinite pressure. Then, bringing her hands together, Yorozu attempts to unleash her domain expansion, threefold affliction. But, as she looks towards Sukuna, she's shocked to see that he didn't even open his domain as well. Sukuna, being the unbeatable Chad that he is, drops his random wheel that he had and summons another Shikigami, which just happens to be the freaking strongest of them all. The 8-handled, sword divergent, Scylla Divine, General Maharaga. Instantly, Maharaga thrusts her sword upwards, obliterating the perfectly formed sphere and her domain. With Yorozu having fallen to the floor, fatally wounded as well and utterly gobsmacked, Sukuna smugly points out that her energy inefficient curse technique will always meet the same fate regardless of the substance she constructs, be it liquid metal or insect armor. Sukuna, in his eyes, he has already adapted to it, rendering it ineffective against him. Lying there, seemingly fading away, and with a smile on her face though, Yorozu utters some final words of happiness before gifting something to Daddy Sukuna. Flashing into the depths of Megami though, we see that as he lays there, curled up in a fetal position, some forms of light begin to break through. So what do you think? Do you think she gave something to Sukuna that helped with like subduing Megami and making him fall deeper into the darkness? Or was it something that like broke through and made that light appear perhaps? Or was that light already there and it was slowly starting to close and it was just my incorrect assumption on the scene? Anyway, the stage is now set for a brand new day of darkness as Kenjaku, not content with the game's existing challenges, decides to add some new sick rules that will push our new sorcerers to their limits. Kenjaku orders his loyal servant, Kogain, to introduce a new rule that bans any new players from joining the game, but man gets instantly denied as it conflicts with another rule. Either the Shima, Kenjaku attempts to decipher the motives behind Tengen's decision to place barriers all around Japan. He wonders if Tengen's intention is to suppress the curse outbreak by creating purification barriers that enhance the effectiveness of barrier techniques. There are 4 particular barriers that hold great significance in this grand scheme of Tengen's. One such barrier surrounds the Imperial Palace, and the other around the Tomb of the Star. The third barrier is in the Kyoto Yamakuni Imperial Mausoleum, and the final barrier is situated at the sacred Hida Holy Mountain. The foundation of this brutal culling game rests upon the awe-inspiring Bond barrier, an even better barrier than pure ones. According to Big Kenny, this game has no true master, more that he's forced Tengen into that position. Walking around like what seems to me the inside of the Hida Mountain shrine area or whatever that Tengen had, Kenjaku comes up with all sorts of possibilities, including the deactivation of the barriers. He reveals that if Tengen deactivated the barriers after the events of Shibuya, the culling game would have actually come to an end. All of his sinister plans would go down in vain. However, if Tengen did follow through with that, it would cause the undoing of 1,000 years of process and endless wars against different curses. Having revealed just how in control of everything he is, Kenjaku once again repeats to Kogain to prohibit the entrance of any new players, otherwise he'll destroy the purification barriers and force the game to close. This literally causes the Kogain to glitch out, allowing the rule to get added to the game. He also added another rule, which is that the game would end if all players except Megumi Fushiguro and Suguru Geto are dead. As Kenjaku and Tengen then venture forth throughout the area, Tengen questions the fact that if he truly wanted to end the game, why didn't he just remove the barriers like he threatened? But the reason for this is because he actually needs those barriers for Tengen's eventual merger with the Japanese population. Having made it to the center of the barrier, they encounter the very embodiment of evil itself, which was most likely being held here for safekeeping as it was inside like a barrier. So while these guys are playing this sinister game of robbing mummies and, trying to ruin the world and everything, in a hallway at the exact same time, Maki and Wiwi are seen discussing things related to the culling game and how killing Sukuna and Kenjaku would make them win the game. Which is just wrong, only Megumi and Sukuna can physically win the game now, which is why I narratively say that the culling game ends from here. However, they also discuss Satoru and wonder if killing Sukuna would be as hard as killing Gojo. In a flashback, and back after Sukuna sent like Hanakurasu flying freaking miles, she was luckily saved by Amai and cushioned from her fall, and then like the greatest sorcerer of them all in my opinion, Takaba stayed with her throughout the rest of that battle to keep her safe. When she wakes up at the hospital later on, she hears Shoko saying that she's definitely not in a good condition to participate in the game anymore. Yuta asks her if she's able to transform into another human form through a vessel like Sukuna. Angel herself explains though, that one of the reasons she and the other sorcerers of ancient times took Kenjaku up on his offer was because none of them knew how to become cursed items after death. This fact still remains true to this very day, but the Fallen himself is completely different in the scenario. She also explains that after experiencing death once, Sukuna most likely stumbled on a way to split his soul as a cursed item, which I weirdly kind of think is like a Horcrux from Harry Potter, and how like Big V split his soul 7 times to escape death. Either way, Hana also reveals that her role will come to an end once she dispels the seal on Satoru Gojo. Outside the hospital now, Amai found himself consumed by self-loathing as he constantly compared himself to the stronger individuals. He bared his soul to Itadori, confessing that he always carried a deep sense of shame and inferiority around others. In response, Itadori opened up about the unsettling emotions he experienced upon meeting Amai. Despite his eagerness to change and fight alongside Itadori, Amai admitted to feeling a profound fear. Knowing that Amai had managed to save Angel after Sukuna sent her hurling through some of the nearby buildings, Yuji thanks him as now they still actually have some kind of chance in this messed up situation. This confuses our like Jewish Japanese man, because from what he's heard, Yuji had no way of fighting without Sukuna's strength buff. However, our boy explains that just recently he was informed that his body is like a cursed object dipped in Sukuna's energy. Now, he's gonna eat anything to pummel that creep and save his mate. More determined than ever, Yuji then returned to the hospital and encountered Yuta, Maki, and the other sorcerers, hoping to offer them some suggestions on how to save Megumi. Choso then presented him with a book brimming with information about the prison realm's dark secrets and Tsukumo's meticulously documented research on the soul, which before their battle in the Shinjuku extermination arc, she entrusted it to Choso. So like that's how we ended up getting it and stuff, so don't get confused on how like Choso has this here and whatnot. I'm pretty sure Yuhi knew she was going to die in that battle and that's why she handed it over. Also, a mental hint is given to us on what Yuji's technique could consist of. Choso says that it's fine if their siblings are blank, as long as they can go on living as a part of Yuji. Which begs the question, what happened to their siblings? Did Yuji eat them like it's insinuating throughout this part of the story? I don't know, I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm pretty sure like I've mentioned this beforehand in another video, but it's extremely interesting to me. By the way, on the other side of the room, chilling up against the wall and smoking a big old black, Shoko just thinks back on how Gojo promised he wouldn't leave anyone alone. Back in the day, she used to be in love with one of the duo, but that could never happen, and now that idiot's all alone and there are a bunch of monsters needing his help. Please Gojo, come back. So with like everyone still big chilling inside of the hospital, Kurusu, the warrior of the group, is deeply concerned about Gojo's state of mind, and rightfully so. Being trapped in the prison realm can actually mess with one's head, as time does not flow within it. However, whatever is trapped inside cannot die due to starvation or old age. Kurusu knows the danger that could be caused if the strongest sorcerer of their time turns out to be crazed and starts killing everyone he sees. But Shoko has like her own reservations here. As everyone's talking about unsealing Gojo, she believes that unsealing him in a confined space of the hospital is a risky move, like who knows how large the explosion could be. So to fix this predicament, our determined Jujutsu sorcerers embark on a journey to Saitama Prefecture, specifically to the Kuroko Mines. Interestingly, the Kuroko Mines is training ground number 4 for Jujutsu High, revealing that they have other similar like locations about. But what I find more interesting is that the actual location of Kuroko in Japan is located in Hokkaido. So does that mean that they've traveled up there and not Saitama? Or is this just like a mistake on my Googling skills? It's probably a mistake on my Googling skills, to be honest, so don't blame me, boys. I'm sorry about that one. Either way, as Inumaki and Itadori huddled up together behind some makeshift barriers, Kurusu takes to the skies, soaring above and preparing to unleash a curse technique like no other, the legendary Jacob's Ladder. Kurusu takes aim and with one salmon directs the full force of Jacob's Ladder towards the prison realm itself, and the hope to finally bring back Gojo. With the brightness of a nuclear blast, Kurusu's technique engulfs the prison realm, but a shocking revelation unfolds before the eyes, and the entire realm disappears into thin air. Yes, the prison realm, an extremely formidable presence if you ask me, is now nowhere to be found. Panic ensues as everyone rushes towards the spot where the realm once stood, only to be met with dispersing dust. Utterly confused, Yuji looks over to the vessel and Hana tries to explain to him that it isn't her fault. Like they had suspected earlier, Gojo might have just turned evil and the light from Jacob's Ladder could have made him disappear. Amidst the chaos, Kurusu's mind starts to wander, questioning whether Gojo is truly an evil spirit. Bringing her back to reality though, an earthquake suddenly shakes the entirety of the continent, taking the whole group by surprise. Back inside of the barrier, and also I'd say Big Kenny here is in Tokyo Colony number 1, or the Aichi Colony as it's closest to where I assume the Heian Mountains are. If that's where Sukuna's body was. Either way, like that's where they were last seen. As Kinjaku is having a discussion on the prison realm with a special someone, he reveals that currently, the prison realm is placed at the subduction zone, which is 8,000 meters below the surface of the ocean, in the deepest part of the Japan Trench. And, just to add an extra level of security, he placed extra cursed spirits to act as sensors beneath layers of extra seals that he created. The reason he went to such extreme lengths is because Tengen told him about the back of the prison realm, and this way he'd still be able to take Gojo down using the environment he's placed in. That depth is a crushing 800 atmospheres of pressure, like you'd literally be vaporized if you were naturally subject to that depth. But, well, Gojo is he's built completely and utterly differently, as all of a sudden he now appears, staring down, looking absolutely magnificent, and asking Kenjaku if he's ready to end everything. Kenjaku tries to irritate the greatest sorcerer to ever live, but Gojo tells the fiend that he should be choosing his words carefully, as these are his final moments. Taken by surprise himself though, Gojo easily manages to block a few random strikes from the other body swapper. Taking his new appearance in, Gojo just states that Megumi has indeed changed from the last time they saw each other. So remember back on like episode 1 or whatever it was, when Sukuna mentioned that he'd murked Gojo first once and for all when he's finally revived? Well, now with him finally having swapped up his skin, Sukuna just mentions that it turned out to be this brat's body that he's now in, but either way, nothing's changed. After Arume shows up as well, and her along with the King of Curses continue to verbally abuse Gojo, Sukuna reveals his intentions of defeating the legendary Six Eyes user, but Gojo just calls him pathetic. Arume, witnessing this whole situation, gets mad and tries to attack Gojo, but in a fraction of a second, gets slammed with one punch, knocking her into a wall and causing the poor chick to start fading from reality. Standing there and seeing that the two beasts are about to throw hand, Kenjaku rushes towards Sukuna, urging him to fulfill their promise. Hearing that Sukuna is following orders, Gojo disses him some more. But here's the catch, Gojo has got more than just defeating Sukuna on his mind at the moment. Amidst the chaos of battle strategies swirling in his head, he had initially entered the barrier to retrieve Gedo's body from Kenjaku. Little did he expect the shocking twist that awaited him, Sukuna joining forces with Kenjaku via a binding vow. Continuing with Light Kenny's chat though, Gojo asks for the current date, and after hearing that it's like nearing the end of November, proposes that the entire battle takes place on December the 24th. Hearing this, Kenjaku cracks up at the romanticism of that specific situation and agrees. The stakes are extremely high as Gojo finds himself under Gedo's watchful gaze, questioning whether Gojo truly believes he can emerge victorious from this epic battle. Do we all remember back at the very beginning of the series when Yuji had asked Gojo if Sukuna is stronger than him? Of course, at the time Gojo stated that it may be a tough fight if Sukuna regains all of his powers, causing Yuji to ask if he'd lose. Gojo, probably being slightly cocky to the newcomer, had replied that he'd win. And here, just like in the past and now, Gojo unveils the truth, stating, no. Before the two strongest characters in the entire verse face off, we're taken to Arume delivering Sukuna some fingers and apologizing for not being able to locate the final one. So somehow Arume managed to survive that punch to the gut that made her fade from reality for a bit. Sukuna reveals that the last finger may already be in Gojo's possession, causing Arume to get annoyed that Gojo for a second time managed to outdo her. Sukuna gets up and begins eating the Shinbutsu mummy, a cursed mummy that in his eyes can compensate for one finger's worth of cursed energy. The scene then shifts to Kenjaku, who's having a discussion with Kogen. They're discussing the Culling Game that still hasn't ended. Kogen reveals that there are a total of 61 players that died by curse technique removal because they never entered a colony. Wanting to know if they feared death or taking a life, Kogen reveals that those 61 players simply lacked intuition. After all, once Higuruma added his rule, they could have avoided both of those scenarios. He realizes that the people of Japan have convinced themselves they have no control over their reality, even when their lives are teetering on the brink. He knows that not everyone has the courage to put their own life at stake, but if they're forced to by someone else, they have no choice but to act. However, with no hope of the present or future, these pathetic humans in his eyes are willing to die at any time. Directing his speech towards Tengen now, he tells the thumb that he despises those who never learn the feeling of approaching their ideals one step at a time. Which is super sus, Kenjaku. We all know what you had to go through with Kaori, and the fact that you cherished every step is crazy, bro. Either way, I think it's kind of safe to say here that with no one else being able to join the Culling Game, it's ended. Yes, it's still active, but Kogen is kind of stuck in a leg lock and unable to proceed further with adding people. So, what's the entire point? The game's now glitched, it can't even continue. We know that the next step is for Kenjaku to merge Tengen with the population of Japan, and when that happens, the Culling Game is truly finished at that point. But that could happen for all we know, the second to last chapter of the entire series with Gege's current pace. So here in my eyes is where the Culling Game comes to an end, as it lends perfectly to what we go into from here. Which, my guys, if Gege isn't lying on this being the last year of Jujutsu Kaisen, then this next stuff has to be the final arc for sure. He's probably lying, but I don't know how man can end the story in the next 18 chapters with all of the info that we need to know. But I'm not him, here's the holy scriptures, so I'll let him decide his fates, not me, some random old YouTuber. Bouncing back over to our man, Gojo, where he's getting a few tests done himself after getting out of the prison realm, he points out that there are only 3 of them left from his class. Shoko also points out, well, one isn't recovered yet, and along with that, Gojo states that he thought Nanami was the type to survive no matter what. Ajichi then steps in and apologizes since he thinks that Gojo would have preferred his death rather than Nanami's. Jokingly asking if his opinion of him is that low, Gojo motivates Ajichi and asks him to stay sharp as he still has a job for him to do. After a while, Eno rolls in as he has something that he needs to say to the group, but we ain't exactly subject to the secret meeting, so I wonder what it could have possibly been. The scene then shifts over to Meimei, who's actually set up an entire livestream pay-per-view to watch the Gojo fights, along with a full betting system intertwined within it. This woman just breathes money, the fact that she already earned 5 bill just from selling pay-per-view broadcasts is insanity. Either way, in front of her, Yuji, using a judo throw, tosses Kusakabe over his shoulder and tells him that it is enough for now. Randomly though, it's shown that Kusakabe seems to have interchanged his soul with Yuji, and the bout that we just saw was fought with the 2 in opposing bodies. Which is what, does this mean Yuji can switch bodies with people, or does it actually have something to do with Kusakabe's true technique? There's just so much that we don't understand in this section, and it's all for a specific reason that I'll actually get to in a moment. A few moments later, we bounce over to the original duo of the series, where Yuta and Inumaki are having a yarn. Yuta explains to him that he didn't tell Yuji how he lost one of his arms, as it shouldn't be his burden to bear, which Inumaki is just super chill about. Man completely understands the situation when it comes to Yuji and Sukuna and the body swapping stuff and it not being actually Yuji's fault. And it's shown that him and Yuta might even have something set up for future battles, which is interesting. I wonder what it could possibly be. As I wanted to explain just before with Yuji, but I had to wait a moment and just explain the stuff before it, we seem to jump around all over the place. Like, we were on the, 19th of November, and now suddenly we're actually on the 24th of December. Did the stuff with Gojo in that room while he was getting checked up after getting out of the prison realm, was that straight after, in November still, or was that the day before going away and he was getting checkups before leaving? Atop one of Shinjuku's skyscrapers though, Kenjaku reveals that he will take care of the rest of the participants of the game, while Urame and Sukuna fight Gojo. Urume, who's just like annoyed with Kenjaku, asks him to stay away from Sukuna, but he's in no hurry to leave, as if he did leave Sukuna's side any earlier than now, then Gojo could have just wiped him off the map. If this battle goes well though, then the only defense for Jujutsu High will be if Yuta, Maki, and Hikari take the opportunity to cut down Sukuna while he's weakened. If that fails, Kenjaku is left to do what he pleases, and he's willing to take that risk now. Just before fighting, all of the Jujutsu sorcerers are seen lacking together, discussing how to encourage Gojo in their battle, as to be honest, they've never had to do it before. Strolling up from behind them though and rolling down some steps, Gojo, accompanied by Gramps and Urahime, all with looks of determination, get ready for battle. With everyone around feeling his aura, Yuji greets his sensei wholeheartedly and lets him know that no one can get close because his technique's in the way. Gojo gets surprised and after a moment ends up laughing while telling his boy to give it to him, which is absolutely crazy, man. With Yuji rolling up and slapping his sensei on the back, we get to see Gojo's allies all rooting for him and patting him on the back just before he faces one of the toughest battles in the history of Jujutsu Kaisen. Walking through a skyscraper with Gojo, Ajichi notes that it feels like ages since he was last here, when in all reality it's only just over a month now. Wanting to know what the prison realm felt like, which is crazy that they hadn't asked him beforehand, Gojo explains to Ajichi that the prison realm was like when you're mad busy with work that it flashes in an entire week, however the feeling is so draining that you'll never want to experience it again. A few moments later, Gojo inquires about the people in the basement of Shibuya's metro station where the chaos started. If we're being like super specific, that's where Gojo came across Choso, Hanami, and Jogo. Even though Gojo fought them for a very short period of time, it left remnants of Gojo's curse energy that made the cursed spirits avoid the floor entirely. This man's so strong, his residuals even scare cursed spirits away, which is just one of the most broken things I've ever heard. It's also connected to Shibuya and the inventory arc, where it was classified that Gojo's birth changed the Jujutsu world in general. Fewer cursed spirits started appearing as more went into hiding just because of Gojo's appearance. Just like, wow. Ajichi also reveals that the people who were affected by a 0.2 second domain are all fine, and that those that were affected return to normal. Walking up behind Gramps and Urahime atop the roof now, Gojo and Ajichi arrive as the day of reckoning has begun. Elsewhere, Urume asks what time the fight was going to take place, to which Sukuna reveals that they didn't even specify a time, but says that he's able to feel Gojo's aura emanating in his direction. Before we get into the final fight, we actually need to learn about Gojo and Gakuganji a little bit, you know, like what's going to go on there? Sometime throughout the month that previously just passed us, Gakuganji exposed himself to Gojo and told him that he killed Principal Yaga. But it was weird, as Gojo kind of just acted calm and blamed himself for being sealed, as it caused all kind of things to happen, including Megami's body being taken over by Sukuna and the deaths of other sorcerers. As they continue their conversation though, Gakuganji reveals what Principal Yaga said to him on how to create cursed corpses, and hearing him reveal this, Gojo figures that Gramps didn't tell anyone about it. It's revealed that Panda's secret is a special grade case, and that if it was before Gojo was sealed, then he would have notified someone, proving that a change definitely happened within Gakuganji. Then, in another crazy reveal, it's shown that someone, if it be Gojo, Kenjaku, Sukuna, or someone else, took out all of the Jujutsu higher-ups, allowing Gojo to go as far to say that it would have been better if Gramps was running HQ now. Back in the hallway though, and before they made it to the roof, Ajichi confronted Gojo on why he wanted him to construct the barrier. Turning back and looking at his close friend, Gojo tells him that it's because he trusts him more than anyone else. Slamming his hands together on the ground now in preparation for his barrier, Ajichi just thinks on how he's someone who always fled. No, someone who didn't even have the courage to flee and was given the courage to run by a friend. Despite everything, Ajichi braces himself and knows that he must live up to Gojo's expectations, either that or die trying. in front of the two, and while using her curse technique called Solo Forbidden Arena, it's explained that any sorcerer of her choosing, including Urahime herself, will have their curse energy reserves and output temporarily enhanced as long as they remain within a specific range. To excel at Jujutsu is to excel at subtraction, the degree to which a sorcerer can emit cadence, movements, and other elements that relate to their curse techniques determines their skill, and Urahime leaves nothing out. Words, gestures, dance, music, elevating the simple technique to that of a ritual boosts its effectiveness by 120%. Urahime's curse technique allows her to boost the chosen sorcerer's curse energy, and as Gojo himself also begins chanting to add to his own technique, 9 ropes, polarized light, crow, and declaration, between front and back, it's revealed that just like our girl, Gojo has also never left anything out, and with a combination of the trio's curse energy, shoots forth his 200% hollow purple. As Gojo's ability blasts forth, Sukuna manages to take notice of it and throws up his hands trying to block the entire attack. With buildings all around him exploding due to hollow purple, Sukuna's defenses are undoubtedly breached as the building he was standing on is completely demolished, causing it to fall to the ground below. As the smoke slowly begins to fade, it's evident that due to Ajichi's barrier, Sukuna actually misread Gojo's first move. Even though he knew where he was, he didn't sense the insane energy output until the very last moment. Bursting through the smoke though, Sukuna, with one less hand, somehow managed to tank the first attack, leaving the true battle between history and today's strongest sorcerers to continue. So, back before the blast, Sukuna and Arume were located at the Shinjuku Center, which is around 4 to 5 kilometers away from the Shibuya building Gojo was at. Having strolled across that distance in a matter of milliseconds, Gojo, he probably teleported, like let's be straight, he probably straight up teleported. Gojo sets the record straight and tells the King of Curses that he is the challenger here. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Gojo is indeed him, and we are about to witness one of the greatest fights in anime manga of all time. The entirety of Jujutsu Kaisen has built up to this moment, and it's one that we can, you cannot afford to miss it. So, once this fight does come to an end, which I think is at, the 5th chapter now, I will actually end up covering the whole thing, but obviously I have to wait till it's done, and I'd imagine that possibly there's other stuff that's going to happen in between it, so I might even make other videos on other stuff in between. This here though does bring the video to an end for the Gojo revival part of I guess the Culling Game, and then the start of the final saga for Jujutsu Kaisen, or arc for Jujutsu Kaisen, whatever you want to call it. I'm not really too fussed. It's crazy when you think about it in a time perspective, how it's only been 20 days or something that Gojo was stuck in the box, but in her chapter releasing time, it's been around 1,200 days since the man was free, which is absolutely crazy. The current fight is truly fantastic though, and I recommend anyone to read it weekly, as Gege hardly ever seems to miss, and it has so many people decisive on who they actually think is currently winning, and I'd love to know on who you think is currently winning. Either way, if you are still here, then do subscribe and push this video to 5k likes so that I know you want more. I'm going to be dropping a video covering the whole Culling Game coming up next week, which is a continuation on the actual series and stuff, so that comes after the Perfect Preparation Arc, and it's finally, come to an end now and everything. So be sure to look forwards to that. Also, shout out to Raid again for sponsoring this video. Make sure you go down and check out my link in the description below, or scan the QR code on screen to get a bunch of amazing dope goodies in game. By the way, for now, it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I will see you all in a bit. Bye.